Real Power, thank you. A US academic who pioneered a new method to measure regulation is in Australia this week for meetings with the Australian government about how his algorithms can be implemented to scrap red tape. Dr. Patrick McLaughlin, who developed the RegData system, is visiting the country with the Institute of Public Affairs. He joins me now. Good morning to you. So, first of all, what do you make of regulation in Australia? How significant and complex and complicated is it?
Well, it's certainly been growing over the years. One of the things we're able to do with this software is track trends in regulation. We can see where it was in the 1970s and where it is today. With a really simple metric is just look for the words shall and must that occur in the text of regulation. And we're at a point right now in Australia where there's about 95,000 of those in regulations that we've been able to find so far.
So what does that mean? If you find those words or you want to put those words in?
Well, it is certainly the goal of regulations to use those words. Regulations by design are prohibiting you from doing certain things or obligating you to do certain things. So when we want to quantify how much there is, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for occurrences of obligations or prohibitions. Whether you want them or not is sort of an open question, but that's the tool of regulators themselves. It's the usage of those words.
How do you measure regulation accurately?
Well, the first thing I think you want to do is have a comprehensive metric, and that's one of the things that RegData brings to the table. There's other ways you can do a cost-benefit analysis, if you will, but those tend to be focused on one regulation here or another one there. What we're doing is using software to look across all of them. It's something like measuring cholesterol in the human body. Once you can get an accurate count of how much there is, then you can start to see the correlation between, say, cholesterol and heart health. That's what we're doing here with RegData. We're getting an accurate count of how much there is, and then we can see how that affects the economy.
Okay, and so how much? So what's the count here, and how does it compare to, say, the US or Canada?
Right, that's a really good question. So the count here, again, we have about 95,000 restrictions, these shalls and musts. In the U.S., we have just over 1 million, 1,080,000 or so on the books today. So Canada has fewer. Canada's about 76,000. Australia, though, in comparison to the U.S., it sounds like it's a lot fewer regulatory restrictions on the books. But another way of thinking about it is restrictions per person. If you look at it that way, Australia has about 20% more regulatory restrictions per person than the U.S. does.
Our Prime Minister recently said in a speech that cutting red tape was a priority. How easy is that? Is it so simple?
If it were easy, I don't think we would have seen the accumulation of regulation and red tape over the years that we have seen. So no, it's not going to be an easy task. However, I do think leadership in Australia is showing interest in using the best tools available, things like RegData that can at least let you know where you are and then track progress moving forward. Going back to the human body analogy, I think of RegData as something like a scale. If you're going to go on a diet to lose some weight, the starting point is to step on a scale and see where you are right now, and then check in a week later, 2 weeks later, track your progress.
How much of a difference can it make, just finally?
Well, we've seen other jurisdictions, we've seen provinces in Canada, in some states in the U.S. use tools like this to try to cut red tape, and it's made a big difference. British Columbia, for example, they started a program to cut red tape many years ago. They set out to cut at least 1/3 within 3 years, and they achieved more than that. They got to nearly 40% cut away within 3 years.
All right, Patrick McLaughlin, really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us live this morning.
Thank you for having me.